Welcome to my Sorare journey, episode 98. The hype for Sorare is back. We've made some big additions. I've nailed down my strategy. I shared it last week. We're going to go in a bit more depth this week and touch on some undervalued players. Let's get into it. Starting with a huge addition in the form of Rafinha from Barcelona. Obviously a ridiculous season numbers-wise last year. I don't see any reason why that would slow down. Under Hansi Flick, they're so attacking. He's on set pieces. He's decisive. It makes so much sense. I wasn't particularly weak in forward position. It was just sort of his price on the market. So I'm looking at him, 140, 145 pound sort of region. You're comparing that to the players I sold last week. You're looking at Haaland. I sold him for £210, I think it was, somewhere around here. Yeah, £208 I sold him for. So if you can pocket £50 and get a better scoring player, that's what I think I've done. But I've gone one step better. I definitely overpaid, but I overpaid in useless cards, or useless cards to me, because each, trade is based on your perspective. These cards can be very valuable for someone else, but when you see my depth chart, when you see my potential lineups for next season Champion Europe, you'll see Pedro Porro, very low in the selection. Bentancur, effectively useless. Brennan Johnson, useless. Andy Robertson, probably a backup. Anthony Robinson, someone who's a bit good, but completely inconsistent at times. And I've found his scores so hard to predict. Like, he'll put up hundreds against Chelsea and then 30s against Southampton last season. Then you have, Matt Sells, who last season was one of my best keepers. But I just thought about it, and I was like, Nottingham Forest, they're losing all their best players. They were predicted to be relegated last season, or at least in a relegation fight. Don't want to call them one-season wonders, but some of their best players are leaving. I don't see them competing to the same degree they were last year. So you've got to adjust. You've got to be like, right, he's a good player, but he's getting sold £50. Vicario is just well overpriced at £90. I don't know how he can be there when, Alisson, Raya, Courtois, they're like £110. So that was just good value. Belieber, solid enough scorer, but for me, not going to make it. And Dia from Everton, again, good player. If I was competing on a budget, if I needed some in-season cheap players, I'd go to someone like him. And £6 for Rafinha. So for me, I think it was like £200 or something. But it's not about the cost. It's about what you can win for them. I could hold them all to the end of last season. Might have one of them, two of them might have helped me get rewards. This guy can help me get rewards every single week. He's actually not the only addition. I'll go back to the club. With him, Inigo Martinez. Now, this is pure collection bonus. Even though it's the end of the season, I think collection bonus is going to be key. Obviously, only on expensive, good, high-scoring players. So what I've got is Barcelona. I must have gone past it. Oh, no, because they'll be on 0%. So Barcelona will be at the bottom here, and it's on 0%. But now that the days have shifted to you only need to hold cards for 30 days, by the time Barcelona actually have their first game, I'll be on 1%. So 1% for a card that cost £11, who I think will be a starting choice defender for Barcelona, who play a high line, who averages really highly, like last 15 games, 57, for £11 in Champion Europe. It makes no sense. I think there's a bit of risk that Araujo takes his place, but from the Barca fans I was speaking to, from what I watched last season, he got the role and it's sort of his to lose now. He was really good. There's no reason. He initially was brought in as a sub, as a replacement, and that's what he was. But he's developed more than that. He suits the play style. Hansi Flick likes him. So for £11, makes complete perfect sense to me. I will just touch on, because I know obviously a lot of this is done product. I'm not talking you through what I could have done at the time. But just to reflect on that, another really cheap purchase was Ferran Torres. So he's £13, and he's, at the minute, looking like the first choice, centre forward, which would obviously be great. I think Lewandowski's going to get sold somewhere. But at the end of the day, Barca are linked to too many forwards. Torres is probably not good enough to lead that line, to be a Champions League winning side. So we went for Martinez. I think he's a smart pickup, gets us 1%, £11, good value all round. And then last night, Samuel Lino. So very, very weird. Not a Champion Europe player. Moved to Fluminense in Brazil for 25 million. They're already at sort of second in their league, potentially top. They don't need any better players. when I watched this guy for Valencia, he was incredible. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's going to be, what, like 25 years old now, 24? 25 years old. Wasn't really getting consistent minutes at Atletico. He did still do very good there, but you can see, 73% of games he played in the last 15. It just makes sense to go back to Brazil to him. And for a dominant team in the league, I think he could just rip. I really think he can rip scores. So you can get him still for £14. I got a max level XP card for 8, I think it was, if I flip back to my cards. He was obviously 10%. So for £12 it cost me. XP was absolutely full when I bought him. Obviously you lose a bit during a sale, so he's gone down to 8%. But still, I am very, very dominant on XP. I want to get the best XP. That's one thing you can't catch up with people. If it starts higher, it's going to end higher than your card pretty much. I know the system's changed where you can upgrade people, so there are ways to sort of catch up, but it because of the limits on it, it doesn't really work that way in reality. It's like the better XP cards will always be better XP cards. So looking at like him, it doesn't make sense until you look at the depth chart. If you flick to the depth chart, I added the teams they play for as well, just because this is basically the favourite for the Champions League in order. So it's PSG favourites, then Liverpool, Barca, Madrid. And I was just going through how much coverage do I have of these players. And I've got fantastic coverage. Bayern are the ones that obviously dominate their league, do well in the Champions League, really good team, scary, but just very overpriced. So it will be the Bayern stacks that I go head to head with, but that SO7 element and having 2 cards from the same club max, getting you a 2% bonus, I think that's going to put me in a good stride. I might try and pick up a Bayern player like a Upamecano or a Jonathan Tah or someone like that, just to give me a bit of coverage. That's basically what I did with PSG, picking up a £30 Fabian Ruiz. Solid player, gets me a bit of coverage. So I could do that, got plenty of options. That's all looking solid. You saw most of that last video. But you forget, I forget, I've got in-season contender cards. Cost me about £100, nothing special. But my Kawasaki stack, well, you can use one classic card, you've got boosted hot streaks, and you're still playing for cash. Samuel Lino, absolutely perfect. If he is that dominant player that I think he'll be in Brazil, if he does rip it apart, he'll be my classic card, he'll be my 50% captain bonus. It just sort of makes a lot of sense. So this is all well and good. This sort of depth chart shows you good depth. But I went one step further and started lining up these teams, and you start to, see little weaknesses and things like that. So if I go to view my team and then look at this one, for example, pretty much near perfect team. You can see I'm getting that 2% boost for only having 2 players from the same club. I'm not getting the 370 cap. If you get a team win 370 cap, you get another 2%. Not got that in this team. Not got any chance to do it. I think it shows you when you're building it. Yeah, I'm basically at a 431 cap, so not going to get close. They're just far too high average players. When it comes down to fixtures, I might be able to swap Saka into a lower team, get that boost, get 4% on a good, strong team. We can work on that later. But for now, looking at this, it's a near perfect team. 2 of the highest averaging defenders in the game. Alisson really solid. You got Declan Rice, who I think is one of the best midfielder cards in the entire game. This 63 doesn't do him justice. If Arsenal perform well, I think he could be up there with your Kimmiches and Bruno Fernandes. He's a bit underrated, to be honest, a bit underpriced. In my opinion, I'm massive bull on Declan Rice. Rafinha, Cole Palmer, 2 high-scoring teams, 2 teams that should dominate their leagues. Chelsea just look better and better after the Club World Cup. And Saka, again, everyone knows how good he is, but a mega bull on him as well, because I think Arsenal will do well this season. He's coming off an injury, so his scores don't look as good compared to like a Rafinha or a Palmer or someone like that. But he's absolutely in that level. So to get the midfielder card, to be able to play all of them, fantastic. This team talks for itself, basically, if you've ever watched football before. So then we go to the second choice team. Now, is someone like Salah a second choice player? Is Trent a second choice player? I don't know. It will depend on fixtures on the day. I was just trying to basically limit it to 2 players per club and get a strong starting lineup out there. So when we're looking here, like Romero's probably a bit of a weak link. This is where I was like, okay, The depth chart's good, but when you have to do it position by position, my fourth best defender is Romero, who is underrated, one of my best cards, but it depends how Spurs play. You know, I was under Ange Postecoglou, I knew what they did. They played a high line, so him completing loads of simple passes just scored so highly. And on top of that, you know, he's very confrontational, so he's making tackles, he's winning duels. I knew all of that last season, and that's why he did so well until he got injured, and he was good value. Next season, we're slightly unsure, so I could put someone like Lewis Hall, who are incredible. Again, hugely undervalued card on the platform, in my opinion. He had an injury towards the end of last season, so people are sleeping on him. Newcastle, dominant. Depends on the whole Isak situation, how dominant they'll be, of course, but good, solid defensive team. He gets attack and returns. He takes set pieces. Great. It's just, obviously, Newcastle could get battered by an Arsenal or a Liverpool, so you can't really... He's not set and forget, whereas Trent, unless they're playing Barca, just play him everywhere. He's an elite card. He's like a star, and Lewis Hall would be an A. Is it an A? Tier 1. Tier 1 in my book. Besides that, Unai Simon, one of the best clean sheet keepers if you just need a 60. We need to see how this new matrix develops, where you no longer get the punishment for conceding free goals, which I think is a great addition. But at the same time, it shouldn't change much. You know, if your keeper's conceding free goals, I don't think you're going to be flying up the podiums anymore. You never were. You know, it's not going to change that. It just... Dead teams become a little bit less dead, basically, which I think is great. You know, conceding 3 goals, it's not great. You get punished for it, but it shouldn't ruin your whole game week. That's the point we're at. Odegaard, Saka, Salah, speaks for themselves. Fabian Ruiz, he's in that bracket, but he's not there. He's like a tier 2, tier 1, depending on the game. And I just thought for his price, just seemed very, very cheap. So you're looking at that and you're like, right, second team, near perfect. We could improve defender-wise. We then drop in to the third team. Now, this is probably my third team. And this one has a lot more question marks. So you can imagine Hall or Romero, doesn't really matter. David Raya, fantastic. Timber, is he going to be guaranteed star? He seemed to take it over from White when he was injured, so that makes sense. Lewis Hall, Romero, we spoke about them. I love Bruno Guimaraes. I just think he's great at football and a great asset on Sorare. Yuri Tielemans, incredible last season. Villa shouldn't have weakened much. Yeah, just depends if he has the same role, because when he joined Villa, it was like, not really playing, bench player. Started, was incredible, plays everywhere, like core to their team now. Dybala, one of my favourite cards, one of my favourite players. 2 of my favourite players back to back, actually, leading the lines. Dybala, injuries, everything else, tough to know, but when he plays, electric, elite, fun to watch, fits the matrix perfectly. And Xavi Simons, Chelsea, if he nails down a starting spot, incredible, but their depth, I don't know. Depends how he plays first couple of games, really. He will be one of the best scorers in the game, or a rotation annoying player. I'm worried he'll do an Nkunku, but for now, he sits there. I'll show you my fourth team. We have coverage. But this is where it starts to get weak, I guess would be the answer. Weak for me. You know, obviously, I've got some fantastic cards. But Sorloth, an out-and-out striker, not picking up points except for goals. Openda kind of fits the same category. So both of them are decisive dependent. Compare that to the rest of the team where you got Saka, Rafinha, Palmer. They take on players. They get these non-decisive dependent points, which is why I think they're so key to doing well on Sorare consistently across a season, and they're the players I always go for. Bernardo Silva, weird. He was probably... I thought he was undervalued at the time I bought him because of his average scoring. It's just so high, and it's back up to being ridiculously high, but he is a bit hit and miss. City rotation. I don't even know if Haidara is going to start now Schlanger's back. He was basically, I run out of cards, which is why you put these into formation, because I'm like, I did not realise my fourth team would not have a starting midfielder. So I could improve that. I actually will show you shortly who I've been scouting. David Raum, if he plays a weak team, he's electric. And Willie Orban against anyone puts up a 60. And Nick Pope, he's alright, you know. I've always overrated Nick Pope. But the benefit to this team is I have in its current form, an extra bonus. I don't know how I see it. It showed me it this morning, but here we go. So I've built a team under 370 points. So yeah, an extra 2% bonus. This shows when fixtures are out, I could, point things in the right direction to get every single bonus and strength in places. Dropping a David Rahm. If they have a cheap fixture, I could swap him with like a Van Dijk or a Guardiola. And then it's like you don't really change the average score too much, or you don't really change the underlying expected score because Rahm does well against weak teams, but you do change the average score to get it under cap 370. So little ideas I can play around with, but for champion, cap 370 is going to be tight. So looking at that, you can see my second team, Romero or Lewis Hall, not really incredibly strong. Like, I'm looking to dominate champion, like absolutely wreck it. Tough. Not my first choice. I can improve. And then midfielder wise, towards the end, we're looking for a really cheap guy that can put up some scores. So you can go scouting, which I've been doing. I've just sent an offer in, might be a bit cheapskatey, but João Paulinho, obviously played in the Premier League before, didn't cut it at Bayern, but an elite level player. So looking at him, rare cards on sale, lowest price, £5.95. Now I appreciate he could stay at Bayern and sit there and do nothing, but if he is purchased, he's an easy £20 card. He's easily as good as, who would be equivalent to him? Probably Gravenberch last season. He is in that sort of price tag. Who's a £32 player. Let me just double check. There's so many clicks now to see. Yeah, a £32 player in Gravenberch. So he's immediately someone that comes in for that midfielder depth. £5, anywhere around that. I'm being a bit cheap, to be honest. I can easily just go out and, I could have got this one for £7, but I could get this one for £7 with slightly less XP. And that would allow me, why I'm going for the buy-in kits is so I can, if I do want a buy-in player like an Upamecano or something like that, I can get the XP, the collection bonus. So just completely what I enjoy, which is fun squad building, but also trying to gain an edge, trying to maximise, as you can see throughout the content. So when scouting defenders, I'm obviously looking for quite an expensive, good, premium option. Now this isn't, and is that at the same time, £17 he's selling for. He's a budget option, but I have been told, and I expect by some Chelsea fans, this guy to be incredible next season. He's playing a lot more forward. He's getting attacking returns. I think you can see it in the Club World Cup. Yeah, like a 94 against PSG. Whoever they played here, a 90 or an 82, sorry. Yeah, people are really expecting him. And by people, I mean Chelsea fans are really high on him for next season. Now, I don't think he's as nailed because of the Reece James problem. Because Reece James is fantastic, was club captain at one point, still might be. He can drop right back or centre mid, but centre mid you're going to have Caicedo. So it would just be a good budget option. I could just go monstrous and just completely fill up midfielders. Because obviously, you can sort of be a bit more creative. But I'd want the Chelsea version. I hate how I have to click cards on sale, which only is £102. I sent him an offer and he's not really budging on that. The reason I bring up Caicedo, obviously huge average scorer, and I can tick my Chelsea collection to 4%, which is really key for obviously Palmer. It'd be great for Caicedo if I did get him. I think Dewsbury Hall is going to be moving to like Fulham or somewhere as well, so I can unseal him, maybe get an extra utility. That could be my Paulinho backup, but a Fulham midfielder is not like... I'd rather have Paulinho for £5 basically. Outside of that, I have been using a scouting option. I would recommend it. It is very good. It is basically like Sorare data, to be honest. Bit harder to use maybe, but I think looks a lot better. Less sort of selections. So if you're looking at this, obviously I love the L40. You've got to ignore Boskagli and Miro Muhen because they weren't in the league last season. So your best player is Hakimi at £157. I love Hakimi. I just only have £112 to spend, or if you put them together, 124. But yeah, probably a little bit overpriced just because I know Hakimi hits, he's a smasher or absolutely awful. Like, he'll either ruin or make, which I think he's done here perfectly. Yeah, exactly. 86 against Real Madrid, 23 against Chelsea. It can be hard to predict. So although over a fantastic season, he's going to be great, it is a bit more harder to predict compared to like an Upamecano, who I don't know, I guess he got injured towards the end of the season, but when he's not, he's just averaging high the whole time. Like, yeah, maybe he makes an error led to goal against Dortmund or something. That happens to anyone though. So looking at him, this guy's supposed to be a beast actually. I've not even considered Mittelstadt, but that would be because I don't know what Stuttgart are going to be up to next season. He might have even got a move, not really too well known. I don't know a lot about him. I know he's German national first choice left back. I know he's been great for Stuttgart, but maybe that's the sort of player I should be looking at, to be honest. Then you're going down the list like Nuno Mendes, cheaper Hakimi. I'd rather Hakimi. I like him. He's basically a striker at some points during games. Rahmani, don't know why his average so high, but obviously Napoli are great. They won the league pretty much without him, I think. I think he was injured for a lot of it. It's a good price. Again, someone I just need to do more research on. When was that? Game week 82. So he's been, out of the picture for a very long time, I think. It says he's played every game. Let me check. It's not game week 82. Oh, okay. So he did play towards the end of the season. I might be thinking of someone else. I thought he was injured. But anyway, you can go through and you can see, look, this is what I'm talking about. Inigo Martinez. If he's a starter, £11 or whatever you could buy him for is ridiculous. But besides that, you have Guardiolas, who I've got, Trent, who I've got, Alejandro Grimaldo could be good, but they're getting rid of everyone good in their team. So, yeah, if I had an answer for this solution, I would have already gone out and bought him before this video. But let me know in the comments who do you suggest for a smasher defender next season. Who cares how expensive they are? I've got £112 in the bank. I can buy anyone except for Hakimi, basically. So give me your suggestions, especially if they're not, highly average scoring, because people know about them a bit more. But wow, Robinson's now £6.50. Just don't know how good of a season he'll be. It would probably be like Jonathan Tah for me. I know he's going to sit. He's going to play every game for Bayern. They play such a high line. He'll just reek of points every week. So £30, it seems fine. But you are then, getting buying coverage you might not want. There's probably better players out there. So I think that's how we're looking for now. I don't think there's too much to add. I'm looking, stronger. I've put the depth selection everywhere. I can't forget about in-season contender. I'm loving finding value on the market. The secondary market's a little bit more liquid than I actually expected it would be. I'm enjoying that. I've got coverage across the whole best teams in the world and in the Champions League, of course. But that's it from me. If you liked, subscribe, and I might do some more. All the best to you. Cheers.